Have you ever thought about someone and then they texted you? Have you ever walked into a room and instantly known something was off? Have you ever had a gut feeling you couldn't explain and then it turned out to be true? 20 years ago, we might have called that coincidence. But it's 2026. Meditation apps have millions of users. Energy healing is offered in hospitals. Neuroscientists study consciousness. And the question isn't, is this real? It's, are you psychic too? Hey, starred people. Welcome to our podcast, Are You Psychic Too? Where the mystical meets the meaningful. We're basically just here to explore what is already happening. I'm your host, Cliff, and I could not do this without my two co-hosts, Jenni and Kelsey. How are you guys doing today?
Doing awesome. Bringing the feminine in.
So excited to be here and finally get this started.
Yes, exactly. Me too. Well, as we are, this is our first podcast, and I figured it might be a good idea if we just kind of went over a little bit of who we are to our listeners so that they get a rough idea of how we got into this whole psychic world, if I can use that term. Let me start with my own upbringing. I started as a little kid, oddly enough, and was always kind of looking out into space. You know, when my friends were picking teams for the road hockey game, I was wondering what was at the edge of the universe. And I just kind of grew up a sensitive kid like that, always talking to my pets. I had cats and dogs growing up and was always very close to them, and closer to them than people, actually. Mm. But I did not grow up with any kind of religion. The closest I got to religion was one day I saw this little yellow bus come down my street and it took all my hockey friends away. And I said, "Hey, Mom, where does this go?" And she goes, "Well, that goes to Sunday school." And I said, "What's Sunday school?" And she said, "Well, that's where you go to church and you learn about the Bible." And I said, "Oh, do I have to go to that?" She said, "Not if you don't want to." And that was as close as I ever got to church. But I don't think that was your guys' experience. Jenni, you had a slightly different experience than that.
Yes, most definitely was not my experience. I was brought up in an uber Christian Baptist type structure every Sunday, and all the rules and rituals that go along with basically a religion that thinks that it's the only people's going to the good part of the afterlife. And
was that something you enjoyed, though?
I have to say that I had a connection or relationship with the being I called Jesus that was separate from what they taught. I knew at 7 years old that they were lying about Magdalene, and I stood up in church and said it. But I'm glad about having the introduction to faith, but I did question it and ended up getting two bachelor's degrees, and one of them was in religion, so that I could just go out and figure it out on my own. Like, what's this all about, and are they lying to me?
So you actually got a degree in religion?
I did.
Wow. And do you use any of that now?
I use all of it now.
Oh, okay.
Because they're all the same. All religions are like cars. They're just in different vehicles heading to the same place. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Kels? What was your early childhood experience?
Well, religion wasn't a huge thing in my family. I grew up in a very Hawaiian spiritual home. My grandma was pure Hawaiian. She practically raised me, and she came from a long line of healers. So like spirituality was always kind of a part of it, but I didn't really know like to identify it as that. But it was kind of strange because I feel like even though I came from a very spiritual family, it was very like hush hush. Like we don't talk about this part of it, or we don't talk about our gifts, or we don't talk about any of that. And also we don't share, like we don't tell people what we know and what we can do.
Why didn't you talk about it? Why didn't you share it?
Well, because you're a target. So like if you start to share like I can do this, you became a target for attacks from other healers, other spiritual people. And that was really common, I think, in Hawaiian culture. I don't know if they really talk about that, but it happened a lot in my family. And so so yeah, we were encouraged not to bring it up. But I wasn't that kid that was really sensitive. I feel like I always had like lots of fire energy. And so I was always like kind of masculine and I don't know, like it was just, I was not the kid that was looking into space and wondering what that means. I was so like, I was just such a good girl. I just listened and obedient, and I didn't like all of that just flew over my head. Didn't even pay attention.
You're an air.
I was also the little kid who like would watch people throw cigarette butts out their window back when people smoked and think, why are they doing that? And I didn't understand why people would throw trash out the thing. And I just always had sort of a disconnect from just, I don't know, being human almost. But let's talk about our first kind of spiritual door that we walked through, because that's what this podcast is about. It's about the way spirituality has come so far in just even the last 20 or 30 years. My first step through the door was in college, and it was with LSD. It was my first LSD trip. I had never done it. That's why it was my first one, I guess. And it went on I'm pretty sure it went on for like several days, although probably not, but it seemed like that. And it was like not to be cliche about it, but it was such a mind expanding experience that it changed my life, like turning a corner, a drastic corner and falling off a cliff or something. It opened me up to all sorts of ideas like, we are all connected, or there's more to this life than just what we're seeing. Or just the beauty in everything, like the beauty in the clouds in the sky, or the fuzzy wallpaper in our bad college dorm. And it basically put me on a journey from that point forward. It changed my life in a lot of ways. And I did do LSD a few more times after that, but it was never quite the experience as it was the first time. But it was always a very mind-expanding sort of journey. Jenni, what was your take on your first door opening?
I don't know what my first experience with the psychic world is, because I always had it, but I'd have to say that I love that you're saying this about LSD, because it is so true for so many people and they don't say it. And it does open a door. It's not for everyone, for sure. Any psychic
No, definitely not for everyone.
Psychedelic it's not for everyone, and maybe they don't need it. Meditation can get you there too, but there's a lot of healing that can take place, and it does enhance curiosity. So I just love that you mentioned that.
Yeah, and during those years, I was living in Los Angeles, and it sort of opened me up to everything spiritual. And back in the 90s when I was living in LA, I mean, you could not swing a dead cat without hitting some sort of a tarot reader or a psychic or a whatever healer. And I was very curious, and I went to all sorts of them. And I took lots of different courses and classes and meditation things and all sorts of different things. And I realized that there are, or at least at that time, there were, probably now too, I guess, there were way more spiritual opportunists than there were true spiritual teachers. I think finding a true spiritual teacher is a real find, Kels, do you have any experience like that for your first time?
Well, okay. Yeah. So I did have this experience about when I was around 7 years old. My my dad used to drive us to my grandma's house before we go to school, and he had a big truck, and we would have to lay in the back of the truck because the cab was too small, like to fit all of us. And so there was me, my sister, and my cousin, and we're driving through the back roads, and we're all laying in the back of the truck. And I saw this tiny figure. It looked like a man, And I didn't know what to call him, but I called him Jesus. And I remember whacking my sister and my cousin. I was like, look, Jesus is going to heaven. He's going to heaven. In my head, I knew Jesus passed a long time ago, but I didn't know what else to call it.
Well, you saw him in the sky?
Yeah, I saw him in the sky going, like moving up towards a light. And so I thought that was a body going to heaven. And it looked like his arms were being carried because it was kind of dangling in the air. So it had like this look, like a hangman look. I don't know what that is.
You sure it wasn't a windsurfer or a kite surfer?
In the sky?
In the sky.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Well,
I don't know. I don't think they get that high. And it kind of just disappeared in the clouds. And I remember hearing a voice saying, they can't see my sister and my cousin. And I just knew in my heart, I was like, oh, they can't see what I see.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't feel like that was a huge experience. It was like kind of just a touch of it. And I don't think I really got into it until later in life. Like
you don't think hearing
ago.
a voice saying they can't, I mean, what did the voice say? It wasn't your voice. It was just somebody else's voice saying that to you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That seems pretty big to me.
I mean, yeah, looking back now, I'm like, that was a huge moment. But back then I was like, oh, that's cool. That happened.
Yeah, because our imaginations are so open, especially before age 8 for girls.
Yeah.
It's like so open. It's just everything's kind of accepted. You don't know to rule it out.
Yeah, that's true. It's like, yeah, that's just Jesus going up to heaven. Yeah, sure. Why not?
I think what I'm trying to say, like, it didn't start anything for me. Like, it didn't trigger like this curiosity or anything. It wasn't like a big thing for me. It was just like that happened. I continued living the way that I was living, which was like really rough and tough. And like, I was kind of a tomboy. They used to call me Kelsey boy.
I totally see that. I can totally see it. So when was your moment when you stepped through the door into true spirituality?
Oh, that was probably like 6 years ago, not very long ago. And I went to a psychic for the first time. And at that time in my life, I was just not doing really good. I felt like I was just trying to escape everything. I was going to therapy. I couldn't figure out this feeling inside of me. Like, why did I feel so, like, now I know what it is. I wasn't grounded. I didn't want to be here. I just wanted to run away from everything and everyone. And I kept trying to run to places that would ground me. And so for me, it was like my grandma's house. Like I'd run to my parents because they live there now and just try to feel like it's normal. And when I went to her, she did like a full chakra scan. And by the end of that session, that's when I was like, oh my God, what the hell am I doing? Why am I being such a victim? And why am I running away from my problems? Like, you need to face this. This is not you. And that's when I had my big like awakening moment, and I started to develop my spirituality. I got into all kinds of stuff. I wanted to know what aura colors were. I wanted to know how to read palms. I want to know astrology, human design. I just went down the rabbit hole. I started to read everything.
How about dream interpretation?
And that's when I came across dream interpretation.
So what happened then?
Oh, that's so I started listening to a podcast about dream interpretation. I downloaded the dictionary. I read the dictionary, the book by Michael Sheridan. And then I signed up for his mentorship program. And that's when it all really started for me. That's when I started to, I learned how to channel. I started working with my dreams. I started to develop my gifts. And now I do this like almost full time.
Yeah. Jenni?
Don't you feel, Kelsey, that regardless of any kind of instruction or program or anything, you were more stepping into who you really are, like remembering more than you actually learned a trade or a method? Does that make sense? It's almost like you're like, oh yeah, I do this.
Yeah.
I didn't know how it worked for you. It seemed pretty quick. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, it did happen really quick. I don't think it was like, it's not like when you go to college, it's like, oh, this is all brand new information and I have to like study and learn and read. It didn't feel like that. It felt way more intuitive. Like I already knew everything. Mm-hmm. It was just now starting to come out. Mm-hmm.
It felt right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That was the same for me. And I do have to kind of give a shout out to my old girlfriend, Gigi, because she got me into healing she was a Reiki master and a teacher. So was her mom. She was also a tarot reader and a psychic. And she kind of opened the door for me early, like maybe the early 2000s. And she was a big inspiration for me. Still is. God rest her soul. She was kind of like that moment that you had with the psychic, Kelsey, where it was like, oh, wait a minute, this feels kind of normal somehow. But back in 2000, it was still kind of like, if you said you're a tarot reader, they thought, oh, you work in a circus, or something like that. It was still kind of a freak job description. Yeah, I also got into dream interpretation, and that's actually where Kelsey and I met. We met at the mentorship program. I remember when we were practicing our channeling, at one point, we're all struggling with it. And then at one point, Kelsey's like, well, my guides are all telling me this. I'm like, what? Your guides? What? And she'd say, yeah, they're sitting me at a table. They're telling me what I need to do next. And it's like, wow. So yeah, it was like a big jump, I think, especially for you. I mean, everybody gets it in different ways. Channeling is one of those things where, well, Jenni, what's your experience with channeling?
Well, I was always interested in the mystical everything. Astrology, I've written dreams down since I was really young. I always was interested in the other side, and was even called morbid when I was young because I was so interested in death. I would kind of float in the pool, and kind of weird. But
you mean like Christina Ricci death sort of stuff, or what?
Kind of.
Okay.
And
who's that?
Christina Ricci. Wednesday.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay. Got it. Okay. Sorry.
I was extremely sensitive and extremely psychic, but I wasn't allowed to be that. So I spent a lot of time in my imagination and in water. I'm a Pisces. I would sneak psychology, not psychology so much as astrology, dream interpretation, all of those books, psychic books, in and hide them under my bed and read them.
When you say that you weren't allowed to be that, how were you? Were your parents like against, or how were you not allowed to be that?
I would say something that was an intuition or something about a spirit that I saw as a medium. That happened a lot, and I didn't know it was different from everybody else. And I would get told, "Don't say that. You sound crazy." I didn't.
When was the first time you actually saw dead people?
I don't know the first time. I can mark the first time that something was done about it. So I have it as a legacy because it kept going on. And that was my good friend in 7th grade's mother died the year before. I never knew her mother, but I saw her in my vision, mind's eye, and I saw her in this setting, and I ended up drawing it for this friend. And I said, "Your mom says this." And she just mouth open said, "How did you draw that? How did you know that was my old living room? That I saw her mom and what she was wearing and everything." And that's when I was like, oh, now people are going to know that I talk to people that have passed. I never saw it as a weird thing, but others did. So
now, sometimes you'll hear stories about people where they're normal human being, and then they are in a car accident or they hit their head, and suddenly all these dead people are showing up to them. Was that how it happened for you, or was it more of a gradual thing, or how did it?
I hit my head a lot later in life.
To this day.
I think that I let myself be until I was trained out of it. So there is a space of time in like teenage years, although it would sneak in, and 20s and stuff where it was turned down. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wasn't the weird one.
So you knew you were intuitive at a very young age. Like you were always in touch with that.
Yes.
You knew?
Mm-hmm.
That's so crazy.
Yes. And I just thought people don't accept this.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, I had this ability from very early too, but it wasn't seeing dead people. It was like I could go into any room of people and know which people I could talk to, which people I should avoid, and just kind of the moods of everybody in the room. And I just, I just always took it for granted. I didn't think it was like anything special. I just kind of weaved my way around the room using that ability, not like spoken out loud. But yeah, in a sense, I was reading the energy of the different people.
And you're a Pisces moon. So that makes sense because you kind of live on the other side a little bit too. I'm a Pisces sun, Pisces moon. It's a very 1 foot in this world, 1 foot in that world place to be born.
Now that brings up an interesting point. How much astrology is, you obviously you're into astrology. I know that. Mm-hmm. And so what part of your spiritual thing is astrological oriented?
I believe astrology is a blueprint for the energy at the moment of birth mapped out. And while a lot of descriptions may not sound like for example, if you're reading it, it could be that you're not at that stage yet, or you don't see that part of yourself yet, or it's just a bad description. But it's all energies. All the planets have energies, and the constellations have energies. And like Kelsey was saying, she was always fire, fire. She is fire. She's Aries. That's a cardinal fire sign. It just goes. They go. And you are Aries sun, but you've got the balance of the Pisces moon. They're opposites because Aries is the first sign and Pisces is the last. So it's almost like a baby and the old wise man.
I was going to say Kelsey is definitely fire.
Yes,
you'll get to know that as we go through this. But yeah, she's definitely fire.
Yeah,
Kelsey, what do you think of astrology? Are you? Because I only know astrology from the Sunday paper, and that was just the sun sign, and that was
terrible.
Yeah.
Really... I think, there's just so much knowledge. I think there's so many different kinds of astrology. There's like Western astrology. When I really got into it, I was into shamanic astrology, which is like more about life purpose. And then there's the Vedic astrology, which is now kind of crept in as my new fascination because it's like, apparently it's more accurate. So like in Vedic astrology, I'm actually a Pisces sun.
Interesting.
Right? Isn't that interesting? But I do resonate with
not
fire.
That.
I know. I know. So I think it's just information, and that's how I look at it. I'm like, this is information.
It's a tool.
It's a tool to help me understand like myself better. I think back then when I was kind of really looking into spirituality, I really wanted to know like, what the hell am I supposed to be doing? Because I don't feel like I fit in anywhere. Mm-hmm. Like, I think as kids, you kind of get a sense of like, oh, well, I want to be a nurse or I want to be a teacher. I was like, I don't know. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. I don't know what I even like to do. And I was just kind of following along what everyone else told me to do.
Yeah, join the club. That was exactly with me too. It was like I was just trying to keep my parents happy when I was growing up.
Oh yeah.
Didn't have any goals, or it wasn't thinking like, oh, I'm gonna. I knew kids in high school are like, I've got to get this level grade in this class so that I can get into this university, so I can get this degree and get this job at this business. It's like, wow, you're 17 and you got that all planned out.
I was that person.
So was I, but I didn't know as like a career what the hell I was going to do. Nobody told me at 7 years old, hey, you're going to be a psychic. But astrology on my chart, it said something about me being a teacher of like the higher things in life, like higher learning.
Ninth house, yeah, esoteric learning.
Yes,
yep.
That kinds of stuff. And so even seeing that when I was like 17, I was like, well, what the frick does that mean? Like,
right, you weren't there yet. You weren't there
I was
yet.
like, yeah. How am I supposed to do that?
Fire.
I know. It's just, yeah. It's now I'm starting to understand.
Well, I think my big goal when I went into the mentorship was I had always been fascinated with dreams, and I had tons of dream journals with all the dreams that I could remember, and I had dozens of dictionaries, and every single one seemed to contradict the other one. But I knew that if I could channel, then that's how I would really learn what my dreams were, because I it's only become a stronger belief in me that if you want to understand your dreams, you really have to be able to channel on them. And that was my big thing, learning how to channel. And I learned by learning how to channel that it's one of those things you can't just teach people a certain way. It's not like, putting water into a cup. Everybody's going to have a different approach to it. Everybody's going to have a different sensibility about it. I mean, Jenni, what was your experience when you first started channeling?
I would say it was when I was in a quiet space in the mind, and I was open, and I would hear things and be able to repeat them and let it, I guess it's like a flow. I really like we're the conduits. I don't remember what is in session. I don't remember. People always say, remember you told me I was going to meet that guy? And I'm like, no, I don't, because it's not my original thought.
You're not going to meet that guy.
I don't know if you did or not. They're like, I did, whatever. But it's an interesting way, because there's different ways you can channel from guides, from other souls that have departed, from ancestors, or from archetypal energies. And so it's interesting to find out the source of the channeling, which is why when people can say, oh, I'm here with the council now, or I'm here with, then you can say that's real. And trance channeling is fascinating as well. But I didn't know I would be a channel. I became a depth psychology therapist after I was a mom. I wanted to be a mom first. But well, yeah.
Shout out to Court, her son.
So now I had an NDE that really woke me up in 2003.
Oh, okay. Describe that a little bit.
So I had an NDE where I, for some reason,
that's a near-death experience for those of you.
Sorry.
Okay, there you go.
I was just sitting there, and all of a sudden, I had passed out. I don't know still the cause of it. That they thought it was a TIA, which is a mini stroke, but I didn't have any evidence of that in my head. And suddenly, I was above my body. And interestingly, you're not attached to your body, or at least I wasn't. I just said, "Oh, there's the body. There's my body." And I needed to find a way. I heard a voice say, "It is not your time." So I found a way to reach a young girl who was in the room, and I was trying to relay to her to call 911. And I kept saying it over and over again, and she was only 10, and her mom was freaking out, not knowing what to do after I'd passed out. I guess they paddled me back is what happened. They did those things where and popped back into my body, and that was terrible. That, because you're expansive in spirit. You have to fit this small foot, like big foot in a small shoe is what it feels like. It's really not. It's dense, it's heavy. It's different down here. But that opened me up because I realized my consciousness or my soul was just in this body for this life journey. And then I really started researching and was called Witchy Woman a lot.
I can imagine. After having an experience like that, it must have been. That
it opens up the like your LSD trip.
Yeah, very powerful experience.
So much awareness, and that did for me. And then later, I did psychedelics that also opened up. And I'm thankful for it.
Now, I think. I mean, we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff as the weeks and months roll on with this podcast, and what we're trying to get to is to show our listeners that it's not some magic trick. It's like everybody has this. It's in everybody. It's built into us. And it's just kind of one of those things that you have to, recognize. Is that the right word? Or what? Allow? Kelsey, you got a better word? You look like you have a better word.
I'm trying to think of one. Well, I think for me, I think it's just coming back to like recentering. It's like coming back to who you are. Like we're innately like this when we're born, and we're just taught everything else. I don't know.
We're taught out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's changing though, because I know that when I was growing up, you definitely were. It was like, oh, that's weird. Don't be weird. everybody was still trying to conform. Whereas now I think, even in the last 20 years, it's, you can, hospitals are using hallucinogenic trips for mind expansion, just all the different things that are way more acceptable. Like now, if you say I'm going on a meditation retreat, that people don't look at you like you're a weirdo, and they think, oh wow, cool. It's just become more mainstream, and I think that's kind of what we're aiming at with this podcast. We're trying to show people that this is an ongoing realization planet-wide that is going to change how we live. Yeah, Jenni, what do you think about that?
I also think it's important to say that Kelsey's generation and younger were actually, in my opinion, born with more consciousness. And so Absolutely. This whole wave of beings that are, of course, were intuitive is so refreshing. For our generation, Cliff, it was a little bit more difficult, but they are so open to it. They don't question these things like the older generations do. And I mean, our parents, forget about it, but,
no.
It's fascinating to have this new wave of what I think is the shifting change of consciousness, which allows people to feel free in their psychic gifts.
Yeah. I think that the way it's shifting is, I don't see it being a negative thing at all. It's all shifting for the better. It's making people more aware of each other, more connected to each other. I don't see it as a bad thing at all. And I think that the more people embrace it, the faster it goes around the planet, and the better off we are as a species. Look down the show notes, send us a note, tell us what you think, and give us ideas, because we're open, as they say.
And we're awakening.
Okay. Well, thanks very much for being with us today. Jenni, Kelsey, any parting words?
Don't be afraid to dive into the deep end.
Exactly. Let's all dive in next week. Okay. Thanks, you guys. We'll see you next week. And on that note, the note of freedom, we'd like to thank you all very much for spending this time with us. We're really glad you're here, and in upcoming episodes, we will be exploring things like intuition versus imagination, how to recognize your own psychic language, dreams, signs, synchronicity, and those moments when you just know something before you know how you know it. If this episode sparked something for you, trust that. And if you're curious, skeptical, or somewhere in between, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Until next time, keep listening, keep noticing, and remember, are you psychic too?